Good morning. The war to legalize President Trump's agenda in Congress begins in earnest this week. Trump, along with you out there, have to get them on board with his budget, legislating his executive orders, stopping the forever wars. Many of them right now, including your congressman, are on the other side, captured by foreign ideas in their heads about economics, empire, and war and peace, and lots of moolah. They want to make him compromise on what we voted for. You need to step up now. Charles Dickens wrote a terrific book about the French Revolution, A Tale of Two Cities. His opening paragraph is famous. It was the best of times and the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. These paradoxes, typical of all revolutionary times of great change, were resolved in France disastrously. Instead of an enduring constitution, the invention of an entirely new form of economy by Alexander Hamilton, and a new future free from Europe's eternal oligarchical wars, that was the result of the American Revolution. But in France, the ghosts of the old order revived themselves in the Jacobin mob's bloodbath of the French Terror. Great scientists like Antoine Lavoisier ended up at the guillotine. Tom Paine and Lafayette, the American Revolution veterans who fought to bring the American Revolution to Europe, were imprisoned. Napoleon Bonaparte, the destructive beastman dictator of pure destruction, rose from the river of blood to be crowned, replacing the decadent Bourbon royals. Summing up this outcome, the great poet Friedrich Schiller said that a great moment had found a little people. I'm Barbara Boyd, and this is your Monday Brief. There is a great deal in that story which describes the coming week, and this would be your call to action, to not be a little people. The Trump revolution has been underway for 100 days, but this week marks the time when the program needs to be concretized in congressional bills and the budget. This week, we're also reaching the most critical time in President Trump's quest for peace in Europe, in the Middle East, and on South Asia's subcontinent. The people in Congress who Trump must sway to get his budget done, if you research many of them, are dead set on continuing the forever wars, which the people voted down in November, and continuing the old economy, which almost destroyed our country. Rather than rising to the occasion and helping the president achieve his wholesale revolution of the world's economy along with peace, the media pounds us every day with the type of rage-provoking narratives designed to make us little, to make us mere passive observers of this, our time on this earth. President Trump hit the right mindset necessary for this time when he told the University of Alabama graduating class on Friday to always think big, create new ideas and new paths outside today's norms. Build your nation, not your portfolio. Constantly test your ideas with critical thinking and analysis. Now, I'm going to ask you right now to put yourself in President Trump's shoes as he observes the universe he must change beginning today, this Monday. Everywhere he goes, he is fighting the ghosts of the past, and they are very nasty and very evil. People often ask me and my colleagues, what is the British Empire? Well, just look at the monsters who the president is fighting in his quest for peace. He is bumping into the British Empire at every turn, and it is a failure of our intelligence services that they're not telling him exactly this. They're engaged instead in writing revisionist history and cover-ups about the last 10 years, the bad ones, the people who still exist there. Instead, it's up to us to keep hitting on this and educating everyone we can. Trump said in his NBC interview over the weekend, he is dealing with people who absolutely hate each other in Russia and Ukraine. But these are hatreds engendered, if you dig in in all cases by the modern British Empire of the City of London and its allies in the financial, military, and professional houses of the United States, who hate Trump with almost a species hatred. And India and Pakistan, there is a potential for a nuclear war based on the terrorist attack of last week, which killed 26 Indian tourists. The group involved, Taiba, I'm obviously pronouncing it wrong, is one of the many terrorist groups the U.S. and British invented and sponsored to war against Russia in Afghanistan in the 1980s. As the Pakistanis have said, they were used as the intermediary in this surrogate warfare, the same warfare which led to 9/11 here. That warfare, in turn, inflamed existing religious tensions and hatreds left over from the British decolonialization, if you will, of India, a residue they left behind in ideologically and British-spawned hatreds. In Russia and Ukraine, you see the same pattern. Stalin starved Ukrainians and others in the former Soviet Union during the 1930s famines. The British, who supported Hitler until he attacked Britain, he went west rather than east as they desired, used this famine to create Russian-hating Nazis in Ukraine, led by the British agent and Nazi Stepan Bandera. The British propaganda about this hero against Russia, Bandera, has brainwashed generations of Ukrainians into becoming the vassals that they are in a self-destructive war. The Nazis there yearned to fulfill the British dream of conquering and dividing up Russia, and they control Zelensky and others with threats of sure death if peace is made. Our CIA is up to its ears in this and has been, and our crazed neocons in Congress who threaten President Trump with revolt on his budget say that these Nazis are the best fighters against Russia. It's very sick. Same thing in the Middle East. The British and their allies here ran the coup which overthrew the Shah in Iran, replacing him with Khomeini. The British ran Jabotinsky and a kind of revisionist Zionism which Bibi Netanyahu practices. The British also ran the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Hamas is the local branch. President Trump is not going to leave any of these situations. Chamuth on the All In broadcast reported on a dinner he attended at the White House, where the only thing on the president's mind was preventing nuclear war. He elaborated at length what he had learned from his Uncle John about the destructive power of nuclear weapons. Joe Biden, we have learned in the recent period, was the opposite, constantly crossing the red lines set by Russia and almost daring them to use nuclear weapons. In the end, according to new books, he was so deluded and so compromised by British machinations that he thought he was head of NATO rather than president of the United States. His policies reflect that. Europe is increasingly turning to outright fascism, the fate we would have suffered here if Trump had not been elected. NATO, an organization we should simply abandon, has been involved in leading this drive towards thought control since the 1990s, when they incorporated the British agent George Soros into overt political operations rather than their military mandate. They do this because they recognize cognitive war for the mind, is the essence of all warfare. To me, that is the question concerning our universities. Ideological brainwashing engendering hatred and shame concerning our country in the future generation. That is the issue rather than the so-called issue of anti-Semitism. In Romania, home to what is to be the largest NATO airbase in Europe, the people voted once again against this globalist entity with the Trump candidate. That's who he describes himself as, George Simeon. He just won the leadership election there with 40% of the vote. The last time the population voted like this, a couple of months ago, the winning candidate, Kalin Georgescu, was banned by the courts, declared to be too pro-Russian for European tastes. The election was nullified. In England, in Germany, The way our so-called NATO allies are meeting the uprising of their citizens in favor of change is imprisonment for thought crimes. In my view, this, not money, is the issue with NATO, as Vice President Vance has said. May 9th is Victory Day in Russia, with world leaders Xi Jinping and many, many others attending to note Russia's supreme sacrifice of 27 million human beings in World War II, most of them civilians. As President Putin has noted, World War II was only one instance in the drive by the modern British financial empire to carve up and loot Russia in order to control all the vast mineral and other wealth of Eurasia, along with all the key trading routes for the world. Zelensky has threatened that there could be a history-changing terrorist event at this celebration, which will be called a false flag conducted by Russia. That's who we're doing mineral deals with. Now, look at the Congress where Trump must unite a Republican Party horribly compromised by the British ideologies of neoconservatism, libertarianism, and neoliberalism in the Democrats at best, pro-Jacobinism at worst. What kind of deals must he strike to ensure that his budget and other measures get passed in the next 30 days, making the revolution he has ignited permanent, driving us forward? Those are essential in winning the economic war for the nation. Will the seething hatred of Trump's move for peace and return to American system principles result in compromises which endanger the entire MAGA agenda? If this ends in war, Trump loses the midterm elections. He knows that. That was our mandate to him. End the forever wars. If the budget is not passed and Wall Street emerges anew, Trump will lose the midterm elections and our revolution will be stillborn or worse. That's why I led with the lesson of the French Revolution. We must not belittle now. Trump can't succeed without the American people mobilizing right now for his success in the next 30 days. He can't succeed without this horrible Congress bending to the program that the people voted for. It won't require threatening to primary everyone. Just one or two Republican senators or one or two ideologically imprisoned House members in 2026 could be the scalps. Just one or two, like Cornyn in Texas or similar reprobates in the House. We need to be mobilizing right now to ensure that the 2026 primary elections and general elections result in big majorities in both the Senate and the House, supporting the president's agenda and the American system economic transformation now underway directly. Congress, seeing the American people mobilized in this way, will bend, even within the next 30 days, given the triumph and mandate which was the November election. But there really isn't anything else that is going to banish the ghosts and open Trump's golden age. Now, there's a fundamental error being made in the analysis of war and peace by almost everyone. Lyndon LaRouche hit it on the head when he wrote that commentators are deluded when they say that a hegemonic American imperial empire came into being after the fall of the Soviet Union. Rather, he said, an ideology became hegemonic, that of Anglo-Dutch Fabian liberalism as practiced by Lord Shelburne. He might have added by those who run and control George Soros. The Americans of Washington and the coast and the universities became the dominant promoters of that evil ideology. Thus, LaRouche said, the remedy for the world at large becomes now the breaking of the grip of that international financier oligarchical faction over the control of the present world monetary and financial system, a break which, by the nature of current realities, must be made from within the United States itself. That's what Trump is up to fundamentally. That's the dynamic that is determining everything. Thank you for the 250 paid subscribers to Promethean Action who listen to these briefings. But we need to get to 1,000. That way we can begin to think about doing this every day. Please go to the website and subscribe.